the White House Correspondents' Dinner and COVID-19. Well, there are two groups of people who are upset about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and I want to walk through those two groups and why they're upset for totally different reasons in this video. The first group are the people who are the COVID zero people. They've been out there from day one, lockdown, school shut down, halt all transmission, and these people somehow believe that the COVID virus can be contained somehow. Even at this moment, they don't think that the inevitable future will be greater than 93% of all Americans or all people globally will get this virus. They don't think that's the future. There's a way to avert that future. And so they're very upset with this gala, this White House Correspondents' Dinner, because it means that it's a chance of a super spreader event. And of course it's a chance of a super spreader event. And indeed, it's a huge gala. There are no masks in sight, no matter how much they try to ventilate that air. You know, they're not going to be able to do a perfect job in an indoor setting. And even though they are boosted all in that auditorium, and even though they are tested, of course, these things are not all perfect. And of course, there is the prospect that somebody in there actually was capable of transmitting the virus. And it was a super spreader event, just like the Gridiron Dinner was, which had a vaccine requirement as well. So this group of people, they're upset because they don't want the virus to spread, and so they're upset by the dinner. The second group of people is the camp that I find myself in. We're the camp that thinks, rather rationally, that this is a virus that will eventually top out in sort of the upper 90 percentiles. 90% of people globally will get this virus. The best way to get it is, of course, after you've been vaccinated, and if you're older, being boosted, so you have the best odds of doing well. But you're going to get it. We're all going to have breakthrough infection. And in our mind, this dinner, I think, is sort of the natural return to normal human life, which is inevitable. It will inevitably get back to normal. And this is just down that road. But what upsets us about the dinner is the hypocrisy, because this is, of course, the journalists who, through their inaccurate coverage, prolonged and contributed to school closure. It is the politicians who, through their actual policies, push really kind of senseless policies. One of the people at the dinner is Ashish Jha, who the White House COVID czar. He's been on TV in the last few weeks saying, I trust the AAP and the CDC who say you should mask those toddlers. That's what he said on TV. He also said that we think we're going to fight that judge who made us drop the intermittent cloth mask mandate on airplanes. They're going to fight that. So if he's out there saying that we need to, wear that cloth mask intermittently on an airplane and toddlers need to mask, which is the New York City policy, if these politicians are going to be out there pushing that message, it seems hypocritical that they're going to a gala themselves and partying with hundreds and hundreds of people without a mask on. And they might say, well, we're doing it as safely as possible. We're testing. Well, of course, not everyone in the country is going to be able to test all the time before they want to gather. And of course, they're not doing that. And it's one thing to say that, you're doing it the right way. But of course, you have not reduced the chance that event is a spreader event to 0%. You've reduced it a bit, but it ain't 0%. And so in the grand scheme of life, we might say that it's probably more important that a child in a developmental age should see faces and be able to have their face be seen than you to have your gala. But that's why it sticks with me, because it's a hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy of, of course, the powerless, the young, the people who are subject to mass transit rules. The powerless people are the ones we can impose the mandate on, but those of us who travel in private cars, those of us who go to galas, we don't have to follow the rules. And I think that's why some people are upset. And that's what I think is actually the problem. The first group, I think the problem with the first group's philosophy is that they just are not grasping reality. Breakthrough is inevitable. It's going to inevitably happen to everybody. It's going to happen to all the people in that room, inevitably, eventually. In fact, it might have already happened to a good chunk of them. Who knows how many? And as long as that's the case, what would they be trying to miss those dinners for? I mean, they'll just get it next month when they go out to dinner at a local restaurant, or they might get it when they go to grandma's house or go to church, or they might get it at another sort of crowded pharmacy or something like that. So why not, change the date very marginally by going to things you actually enjoy? Because it is inevitable. And so that's why I don't think their policy makes sense. No one's going to be able to abide by their policy for a prolonged period of time. They've already faltered and failed, and so it's unlikely to be sustainable. Moreover, there's a third group of people that say, this is actually how it's supposed to be done. If we're going to gather in large groups, this is how we gather safely. We need ventilation. We need booster requirements. We need all this. Well, I have a trouble with this group as well because one, it seems like they have their head in the sand. You know, people are having weddings and large gatherings and parties and going to nightclubs, and so much of this country is 100% back to normal, and it's been going on for months. And nobody's doing this. Nobody's doing all these kinds of booster requirement and testing you at the door and all these other things that they want or they think is what it takes to be safe. And so in the universe of human interactions, being very strict at one elite dinner not going to make a lick of difference across the universe of human interactions. And this is not scalable. It's fundamentally not scalable. You think a year from now, we're going to be able to test everyone at every single venue all the time forever? And what would be the point? Because we're still going to reach high 90% saturation of breakthrough infections inevitably across the population. So what is the point of this very costly, intrusive, disruptive strategy? I truly don't understand. So in my mind, it's the hypocrisy that's the biggest problem of the debate. It's that the people who are going to this dinner are happy to push nonsensical policies on some of the lowest risk people like toddlers while they themselves get to enjoy. That to me is the problem. The first group of people who think that these kinds of things are always wrong to have, I think America has blown past them. They do not represent most Americans, their views on anything. I was reading somebody who said, it's no big deal to wear a cloth mask a few weeks ago. And now they say that, I was just on an airplane and looked like 5% of people wearing the cloth mask. Well, that tells you something, actually. Doesn't it tell you that when there is literally no compulsion to do something, that nobody wants to do it? It has a high disutility to them. And the people who could do it, they might think like it might provide me some marginal benefit, but it's not even worth it to me. This minor inconvenience, if you think it is so minor. And the fact that so few people are doing it is telling that people don't want to do it, and that's actually the sentiment. And I think that's probably close to accurate, that people are fatigued and they don't want to do it. And to be honest, even when it was enforced as a mandate a few weeks ago, they weren't doing it that well. I was on an airplane. I looked around. I saw what was going on. People weren't doing it that well. They were already over it, and I don't know. They might have been into it maybe the first summer of 2020, but certainly by 2022, they're over it. And I think it's unlikely to be having the same benefit. That kind of policy, it's not like an aspirin where you take it 1 year and you take it 5 years later and it inhibits the platelets just as well. It's not like an aspirin. It's a broad social behavioral intervention, and it changes just like people's will changes. So, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The people who somehow think COVID won't eventually infect most Americans and most people globally, so it's a bad super spreader event, yeah, they dislike it, which is correct, but for the wrong reason. 2, the people who think it's hypocritical to have these events while you're forcing toddlers by the force of law in New York City to wear a mask and going on TV and saying that we ought to do this, compel toddlers to wear masks, which, by the way, the World Health Organization says not to do, and by the way, actually has no credible data. You are hypocrites, and I think that's the reason why your dinner is problematic. And the third group of people that says this is the new normal, we're going to be doing this all over the place, you need to get out of your office and go down the street, maybe catch a flight and go look around this country a little bit, and you'll see ain't nobody doing what you say, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. And by the time it happens, you might even be at that 90+% saturation point. So, it's not going to be helping you too much there. So, White House Correspondents' Dinner. Hypocrisy on full display. Oh, one more note. I saw a picture, and I wonder if somebody can confirm this, but it looks like that there were both pre-event gatherings and post-event gatherings, and even though Dr. Anthony Fauci famously said he wouldn't go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which, by the way, Ashish Jha did go, even though he's the COVID czar, but Fauci said he wouldn't go. There were photos of him being tweeted from the pre-game parties, which were also large collections of people indoors without a mask, so it seems a bit arbitrary not to go to one party and not the next party because you don't want to contribute to a super spreader event. It's really sort of an image control issue rather than an infection control issue. Those are my thoughts. White House dinner, bunch of hypocrites. If you like this video, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, leave a message below. Until next time.